Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Town of Barnstable's formal site plan review. Today is March 21st, 2024. My name is Brian Florence, and I will be the chair for this meeting. This meeting of site plan review is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the chair must inquire whether anyone else is recording this meeting, and if so, to make their presence known at this time. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and proceed with the housekeeping. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the Town of Barnstable zoning ordinance, section 240.24.1.2.b4, which requires that development and modifications that meet or exceeds the thresholds established in subsection B4 downtown Hyannis zoning district shall be reviewed by the building commissioner or his designee at a public meeting at which public comment shall be allowed. Purpose of site plan review is to ensure that the site plan for a proposed development is in compliance with local, state, and federal regulations before a project is submitted for permitting. To that end, this meeting brings all of the town's regulatory agencies together in one place so that you don't have to go from department to try to figure out what's required in order to obtain a permit. While we may, as a courtesy, provide insight into other regulations that may apply to your project during the permitting process, this process is for site plan review only. It should not be construed to be an approval of activities regulated elsewhere, such as under building codes, plumbing codes, health codes, and such. The way this project works, we will read your case into the record. You, as the applicant, will then have an opportunity to give a brief presentation. From there, I'll ask for staff comment and questions. Once staff has completed that portion of the meeting, I will open the floor to the public for comment. Ask that you raise your hand or indicate through Zoom feature that you wish to be heard. I would ask that anyone who is not speaking mute their microphone until the chair calls upon you, and we ask that you state your name before speaking. If you need to share your plans, we will ask that you share your plans for the public hearing, so that we'll need to see your site plan. If you don't know how to do that, just let us know, and we'll be happy to assist you. Before you do a screen share, please let me know so that the meeting is not disrupted. Just so you know, Maggie takes notes of this proceeding. We'll provide you with a letter outlining any outstanding matters or conditions or items that staff bring forward that need to be addressed. So don't feel like you have to take notes. We're going to do that for you. Maggie, I would like to do the dockside last, please.
Hey, you all set, Brian? You ready to go?
Ready to go.
Okay, our first agenda item today is without public comment. It's site plan review 24-7 for AT&T Incorporated, represented by attorney Ed Pare. The address is 830 Wakeby Road in Marston's Mills, map parcel 013003. The zoning is RF, and it's in the GP, as well as the solar photovoltaic overlay district in the RPOD as well. The proposal is to modify the existing tower by extending the 144-foot tower by 15 feet and co-locate AT&T's panel antennas and related equipment, including a walk-in cabinet, backup power generator, and propane tank on and adjacent to the existing tower.
Okay, and who would like to represent this project today?
Good morning, Ed Parry from Brown Rudnick, representing AT&T.
Hi, Mr. Perry.
How are you? Good morning,
Good, sir.
everybody.
Thank you.
Can I share my screen?
Please do.
Everybody see now? It looks like it linked.
Yes, sir.
Terrific. So I represent AT&T. We're an FCC provider of wireless services. There is an existing 144-foot monopole tower that was approved by the town of Barnstable and the Cape Cod Commission. The current tower is at 144 feet, which is just above the existing antennas here. AT&T is proposing to extend the tower 15 feet and co-locate its antennas in similar fashion to the other two co-locators. I'm going to skip down to up to the site plan, I guess. So this is the existing fence compound where two carriers are already located, T-Mobile and Verizon. AT&T is proposing to put a walk-in cabinet here with its electronic equipment. There'll be an ice bridge that goes over to the tower, which takes care of the fiber and cables. Cables will enter the monopole and proceed up to the antennas for the connection. We're also proposing a 20 kW propane generator, similar to the others that are on site. And we've proposed a propane tank to fuel it, and we've added some bollards around the propane tank. At the informal site plan review, there were a couple of questions. I think we've addressed all of them. I did send an email yesterday to Matt Robel about the containment. I don't know if Matt's had a chance to review that yet, but I think that was the extent of the comments from the site plan that we did a couple of weeks ago. It's pretty straightforward. We do need to go to zoning either for a special permit or to amend the variance decision which granted the tower. Probably a special permit, but I do have a email ready to go as soon as we finish this over to Kate and Anna in zoning. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. If you go ahead and drop the screen share, we can, if staff need it back up, we'll ask for it then. All right. Maggie, have we received any correspondence on this matter?
Yes, Brian, only from the licensing division. This project will require an above-ground storage tank license with the town manager. Please reach out to Erin Logan of the licensing program for directions on how to proceed.
Thank you, Maggie. And Mr. Perry, in our letter to you, we will have Ms. Logan's contact information. All right.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Planning and development, please.
Thank you, Brian. Kate Maldonado, Planning and Development. As the applicant has noted, relief will be necessary. In our review, we are anticipating a modification of the existing variance, but certainly can coordinate further with the applicant to determine the appropriate path of relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we'll coordinate with you as well, Brian, to make sure we're all on the same page.
Great, thank you. Next is engineering, DPW, please.
Morning, Matt Robel, DPW Engineering. Ed, I did get your email yesterday. I took a look over the containment submittal that you had provided. My original comment was just looking for, since we're in a groundwater protection overlay district, a little bit of commentary on how any potentially hazardous materials would be contained. I know that this is a propane fired generator, but with engine fluid and antifreeze or coolant aspects of it, we were just looking for minor containment for those couple fluids. I saw those pans that you had sent over and some size on the volumes of those. It looks like it's welded metal. Those are completely, basically watertight, I guess is what my question would be on that. As long as we've got confirmation of that, I'm comfortable with my comment being satisfied.
Great, thank you. Next is public health.
Thank you, Brian. David Stan with Health. We have no comments.
Very good, sir. Building division, please.
Thank you, Brian. Jeff Carter, Building Division. There's a couple permitting requirements for this project. The extension and the co-location is going to be required to be a construction control project. And we'll also be looking for permits for the walk-in cabinet as well as the new concrete pads. And those are my permitting notes, Brian.
Great, thank you. Captain Lamont from Hyannis Fire.
Good morning, Brian. This one does not fall within the confines of Hyannis Fire District.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Asset management.
Thank you, Brian. Grace Rogers, Asset Management, no comments.
Very good, thank you. And just an honorable mention to one of our counselors here. Good morning, Mrs. Starr. Okay, does anybody see any reason why this matter cannot move forward to permitting? if I missed anybody. It doesn't look like I have. All right. Seeing no objections, I will find this matter as approvable as presented, and may proceed to permitting, with the zoning board. Thank you, Mr. Perry.
Thank you all.
You have a good day, sir.
You too. Thanks.
All right, Maggie, if you'd like to read our next case into the record, please.
Our next case is an agenda item with public comment. Site plan review 23-92 for Shoestring Properties LLC, represented by Stuart Bornstein and Dan Ojala. Addresses 110 and 115 School Street in Hyannis, map parcel 326-121 and 326-125. This is in the Hyannis Harbor zoning district, AP overlay, as well as Hyannis Historic. The proposal is to build two 2.5-story apartment buildings consisting of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units with underground parking for a total of 54 units. One building with 28 units and one with 26 units.
Thank you, Maggie. And who would like to begin this presentation? Mr. Ojala. Morning, sir. Would you
Morning,
mind-
Commissioner,
would you
members of the Site Plan Review Committee. For the record, my name is Dan Ojala. I'm a civil engineer and also a licensed land surveyor, and working with Stuart Bornstein, who is in the audience, and also Michael Nee of Nee Architects, who is the architect of record on the project. I'll share my screen so we can look at some of the features of this site. The screen is shared. Does that come up now? Yep.
Yep.
So we're looking at in this area here a street view of the buildings. We feel it'll be a very attractive building. This one has a long permitting history, but in short, the zoning was altered in the area to allow 2.5 stories and with 1 parking space per unit. The density was altered to allow parking to pretty much your layout and parking and buffers to determine the density. So we were able to put a little bit smaller units in. The max lot coverage is very generous at 90%. The building height at 35 and 20-foot front setbacks. You may recall the last project, we were looking for some relief on the front yard setbacks. We've pulled that in and now no longer seeking any relief. So we've got the full 20-foot setbacks. There are just a couple small balcony exceptions that are in the code. The front facade is allowed to project a few feet into that. And there's 2 places where that happened, but very modest and kind of helps break up the front facade of the building. We've got a requirement for a 10-foot landscape setback. We've got nearly 20 feet all along the street. One of the latest features we did do is in talking with engineering, that they would appreciate a place to pull off for loading, unloading. Parking areas are not allowed in the front buffers, but this is absolutely to be signed, no parking. This is a temporary loading and drop-off areas only, which are permitted in this district in the front yard. The main feature of this site is some underground parking, so we're hiding all those ugly automobiles from sight. We'll simply tuck down and underneath. One of the latest changes to the architect's Michael's plan is that we're going to go ahead and drop doors in front of these, quick open doors, and seal off around the outside. There's some air handling requirements that are required, but not too onerous, but some ventilation, of course. And you've got the rated floor system. But what that'll do is tighten up the building. There was some concern about windblown rain coming in from the side and entering the sewer system or even the tight tanks for the floor drains. So that has been eliminated. The latest is we're no longer going to use those shutters. It'll simply be tight to the weather all the way around. There is a rigorous, well, we're maintaining the flow line along the street. Again, the high point is right about in this area. So it's a little bit of street water that'll run by the entrances, but what does fall on those ramps, which will have heating coils, by the way, for the winter, so that we'll have the ability to not have any issues with salting or requirements or slippage on the ramps. And then at the bottom of those is a nice large trench drain, which goes into deep sump hooded manhole, secondary deep sump hooded manhole, and then into infiltration. So that's the only pavement on the site that needs to be drained. Everything else is nice, clean roof runoff. And so you'll see we've got that piped all the way around the buildings to numerous large dry wells that are under the surface. The landscaping was done and stamped by Andrew Garrelay of the Port Design Group. He's a licensed landscape architect. He read the regulations. The design intent is to have the one large and one small tree and number of shrubs every 50 feet. And you'll see that is met by the design now. The latest plans that you would be looking at are 3/7/24. And that one's the one that added the drop-off areas on both sides of the street. And an added bonus, and I did talk with the fire department about this a little bit, is that normally these would be open and it would give a little bit more turning movement and room for activity for emergency vehicles, ambulance, and so forth in the area. There has always been the ability to turn down at the end of the street, or backing into these driveways, you can make a turning movement there. But this will open up a 53-foot wide circle, just about the size of a regular cul-de-sac on School Street. And one of the important features is School Street is a dead-end road. There simply is not a lot of traffic. It's a destination street. There's a small marina down at the end where the boats will go, some fishing in the morning, a couple of employee parking spaces for the steamship authority that are utilized, but there's just simply not a lot of traffic. It's not a thoroughfare like South Street or some of the other streets. So we do feel comfortable that this will be an appropriate use of the space. We're introducing 10-foot high light poles along the street to light up. Again, one of the features of this site is we're working with Eversource to get all the poles taken down on the street. This is their work order, which is a little bit messy, but that's the basis of design for what we're doing here. We're dropping all the utilities underground, neatening up that streetscape, and in that manner, we'll have a drop pole up at the corner, and of course, the trunk line along South Street will remain. But all the other poles coming down School Street will be brought underground and neatened up to neaten up the streetscape, and you'll just have little 10-foot high pedestrian scale lights along the road. Engineering asked for a paved walk area on the west side, so we introduced that. We had a good productive meeting with engineering along the west side of School Street, and so that'll effectively have a Cape Cod berm and a 5-foot sidewalk there, and that'll emerge onto the Grasscrete turning area, and then the lighting is shown adjacent to that. So we feel that's a good design.
Yeah, I see.
And there's a pole, there's remnants of the deck that are being removed. We're going to demolish the old foundation walls. There was a kind of a 2-story strip motel on the 115 School Street side. That's going to be demolished, replaced with a rather large segmental block wall. We did receive back the design documents on that. As requested, that'll be a separate building permit for that wall and carefully engineered design to level off the site and allow us to construct on the west parcel. So that's underway. The civil landscape plan carefully just is for general purposes mirrors the architect's landscape plan. We've tidied that up to match Andrew Garrelay's plan. And your utilities, we're working with Hans over at Water, introducing a new 8-inch cast iron ductile iron to replace the older, I believe it's a 4-inch main that's in the street that's quite old. We'll connect into some recent work that was done, fairly recent work for the Steamship Authority, where there's a hydrant down in this area. The fire department connections, we worked with the fire department on that. And what we're going to do is we've got fire department connections at the southwest corner of 110. We're going to introduce a new one at the northwest corner of 110 and the northeast corner of the west parcel, which is 115. So in that manner, you'll have 4 fire department connections, one at the primary corners up at the intersection and one at the primary corners down by the new hydrant, which we're bringing in right about here on the site plan. And that again will be a nice loop with a good pressure from both sides, forming up a closed loop or so that the water can flow freely in their area if there's any blockages. And of course, you've got the larger mains out on South Street with hydrant number 92 up here that will be within 100 feet of the fire department connections on the north side. So they'll have more options. It's fairly common in town to have additional points, and that just keeps your options open. If a fire does break out in close proximity to one of the fire department connections, you've got the other one to help pump water into the building. The floor drains, we had some discussions over that. We looked over the regulations. Barnstable the health department's got a floor drain regulation, which you're supposed to seal up all the floor drains but to the extent that they're required, they have to go into a tight tank or an all water separator and then into the either town sewer or a tight tank. There's been a request to not have anything connected to the town sewer. So since this plan, what we've done is we've gone from the the traditional hydraulic elevators to attraction electric elevators. And the big advantage of those is, of course, there's no hydraulic fluid. So now all of a sudden that the concern over hydraulic oil entering the sewer system has gone away. So what we'll simply do is, again, this is only there's a basement and then 2 stops on the elevator. It's not a high rise by any stretch, and there's stairs adjacent to the elevators. But what we'll do is run the drain from the very small electric sump into the tight tank. Again, we feel that will be satisfactory. If there's any other requirements for extended volumes, we could run that into a separate drain. But again, the health department would prefer not to do that, and I think it's a fairly de minimis amount at that point. Obviously, there's a tremendous storage volume in the bottom of this whole floor system, which would hold some water, which could simply be tested and pumped out into the drainage system if required. But we've got a full 1,500 gallons, which will take care of snow melt or, any, God forbid, somebody's fuel tank or something let go. That will be contained in a tank. And then outside of that is a secondary tank with interstitial space having an alarm system. So it'll be a doubly safe, tight tank system for all the floor drains on both sides of the building. There's 2 tanks, one for each side. We will eliminate the oil water separator from a new drawing because that requirement for the hydraulic oil in the elevator has simply gone away now that we've switched to electric traction elevators. I'd point out we're looking at we've got a lighting plan that we submitted. You can see here they do a nice job with the 3D renderings. Now you can see it's just a light glow, very pedestrian friendly and safe lighting. The only abutter is ourselves, so there's no concern about casting glare on abutting residences. And we do need a little bit of safety along the street. So I think the spirit and intent of the bylaw is met there, that we're not a hazard, and it's only low level downward casting light. There's zero. It's basically dark sky initiative rated, where there's no light cast towards the sky. We've been through the Conservation Commission with the latest plans. We've got an RDA and a notice of intent for the 2 sides that it clears up the conservation permitting on it. The stormwater report was submitted to both conservation and the engineering department. And we're looking at we've got approvals and a order of conditions in an RDA. The one on the west barely nicked the 100-foot zone, so that was the lesser filing, the request for determination. The eastern one we handled with an RDA, and Andrew Garlay did a separate plan breaking out that landscape mitigation package, which vastly exceeds what's required. We actually we would not be required to do any plantings, but we are nonetheless, in the spirit of being a good neighbor and providing a buffer to the harbor, where we wouldn't need to put any or even a minus 5,000. We're putting in 2,300 square foot of plantings and we'll have a nice sloped buffer there to the harbor. So we think this will be a good project. The zoning table is clearly met. The setbacks are all compliant. We've got parking that exceeds actually the required. We've got the density is per the layout. Again, we've got the parking broken out here on the west side, 32 provided. And that's on 44 bedrooms in 26 units. So about 5 extra spaces there. And similarly on the east side, there's an excess of parking. So, and then with the drop-off areas, we feel that and again, the school street is a secondary street. It's off the main cell street. It's a dead end, and a little bit of turning movements in the public way there shouldn't be particularly onersome. And again, we're hiding all the cars. It's very expensive construction, but we're bringing everything underground, hiding it. It'll be very attractive, as you can see from this picture here, a very attractive streetscape, and even the couple of poles going down School Street are now planned to be brought underground to increase the view shed looking down onto the harbor. So we feel it will be a great addition to the town. Michael is here to answer any questions and can bring up the building plans if you have questions of that. And Stuart, the owner, is here. Again, it's a great design that he's come up with, handicap accessible right in at ground level. And then there's a half stop elevator to get you to the first floor and up to the second floor. And goes right down to the parking garage below. There's 2 on the larger building, 1 on the smaller building. Nice pedestrian friendly amenities in and out right at grade. A nice looking building. And we feel it'll be a great addition to the town. We feel it's all as of right. We carefully looked at all the zoning regulations and bylaws, and feel we fully meet all of the codes that are required of us, and look forward to being a good neighbor. Be glad to answer any questions if you have them.
Mr. Ojala, you confirm that this is, you're presenting this as an as-of-right project for zoning purposes?
Yes, there's not one thing that we saw on this that would trigger any zoning relief. We're compliant with the height. We're compliant with we do careful calculation of the grade plane to the high points of the roof. We've looked at the density. We've looked at the parking. We've looked at the landscape buffers. We've looked at the loading zone requirements, what's allowed, what isn't allowed. We're exceeding the parking and have met every other requirement that I can see. Be glad to chat about any points if they come up, but I think we're fully as of right on this one.
Great, thank you. Okay, I am going to ask Mike to go ahead and just do a very brief, this is site plan, this is about a site plan review, Mike, so I don't want to get too much into the weeds on the building, but since this is a public meeting, I'd like to ask you to just give a brief overview of the buildings for the public's benefit.
I'd be happy to. My name's Mike Nee with Gienap Architects. I'm going to have my coworker Samantha share her screen so I can talk. Sam, can you bring up the site plan? I mean our set, please. This is the first floor level. It's approximately 4 feet above grade. We have you can see on the corners of the site, on the corners of School Street and South Street, there's a lobby located at each corner that provides very public access from both directions, from both streets rather. And now we're going to be integrating that in with the drop-off area as well. So these handicap ramps that slope down from our lobby areas towards those are going to be perfectly located. Further down, you can see the access points. Further down School Street to the south are a pair of access points that take us down into the garage, which, as Dan indicated, hides all of the parking, which is fantastic, and really leaves the rest of the site along School Street and South Street to be heavily landscaped according to zoning. The architecturally, Sam, could you bring up one of the images, maybe one of the renderings? I'd just like to talk about the massing a little bit. That's good. The top left one is a view kind of looking down towards the harbor from slightly elevated, looking across South Street down School Street. And again, you can see these sort of octagonal lobby elements on the corner and the very landscape streets. These are a little bit dated, so they don't have the drop-off area and the pull down further along the street, but those will be enhancements as well. The next rendering over kind of shows a little bit more zoomed in from the same angle. The lower left is a view from South Street looking towards the west. So you're seeing that corner of the site. You can see, even though it's a kind of a lesser, sort of less prominent facade that, won't be really seen by vehicles traveling because that's a one-way street, it still has a very nice pedestrian character. And we try to maintain that on all sides of the site. The final one kind of is a view on South Street looking towards the sort of the west parcel. And you can see again, it's the heavy use of landscaping. These aren't precise to the final landscape drawing, but maintain the same sort of height characteristics of the plantings. Do we have another one up there, Sam? Another rendering, or was that the? Yeah, okay, thank you. These are views from the harbor side, looking back up, sort of generally to the north, I'll say. The top left one is a view of the west parcel. So we have these very highly articulated facades that really break up any of the sort of length and width of the buildings, utilizing very traditional vernacular Cape Cod elements. The tower elements help to sort of turn the corners and also open up the corners, so we don't really have any hard edges to the building. Again, just really contributing to the pedestrian experience and also the creating a nice view as you're coming into Hyannis as well. So the last rendering is just the east parcel. Again, the water-facing view. With sort of a sense of openness and transparency, kind of high up on the roofs, to help sort of, again, break up the massing and provide some very interesting roofscape as well. Just generally the building's organized. You can see the kind of this lower kind of platform is really the lower parking, and then 2.5 stories of the residential above that, with the sort of attic spaces developed with a lot of extensive use of roof decks. And we use those roof decks to help break up the massing of the roofs and comply with zoning so that we have a change in roof profile. Maybe you can switch to one of the elevations for us, Sam. Thank you. Yeah, so again, sort of these pitched roofs, sort of 10-pitch roofs, which are very traditional New England roof form. And then sort of in between those, we break them up with these sort of transparent roof decks that really, again, break the length of the building into nice sort of individual elements, I'll say. I think that's kind of the view from up on high. Brian, I don't know if you want me to get into any more detail. I think Dan's kind of gone into some of the data on it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I appreciate that.
Okay, great.
One other thing would add, Brian, is that we were unanimously approved by the Main Street Waterfront Historic District this time. There is a brief appeal which we'll handle. I think it's next week, but the unanimous decision by the board this time on the approval of the style of the building. They have a careful control of the area, and they did approve of it so far.
Great, thank you. All right, we will go back to staff now, and then when we're done with that, we'll have public comment. Beginning with Maggie, have we received any correspondence on this matter?
For staff correspondence, the only comment I have is from licensing again, and they do not have any requirements for this project.
Great, thank you. Planning and development, please.
Thank you, Brian. Kate Maldonado, Planning and Development. We do have some comments, many of which have been discussed to date, but for the record, I'm just going to summarize and walk through them. Further detail for all the comments will be defined in the letter that Maggie sends out to the applicant. So the first comment is that due to the scale of this project, formal site plan review is required as we are here today. And additionally, the applicant was required to send notice to abutters within 300 feet of the property in advance of this meeting. The project is subject to Chapter 9 of the code, the town's affordable housing requirements, which requires a minimum of 10% of the units, so 5 units deed restricted at 65% of the area median income. There's several steps defined in more detail in the letter regarding that process, including a regulatory agreement and declaration of restrictive covenants, which needs to be recorded with the registry of deeds prior to occupancy. See, if I believe that all the units will be purchased. However, if there are ownership, if any of their rental, they will need to be registered with the Inspection Services Department. A landscape plan was required, signed by a registered landscape architect, which we are in receipt of. We are asking for an updated version of that plan that incorporates the recently amended temporary drop-off area so that we can see a final product of the landscape plan, again, signed by the registered landscape architect. The applicant will need to coordinate financial security for the plant installation and duration of the plant material for 3 years upon installation. The subject property is located in the Highness Main Street Waterfront Historic District. As the applicant has mentioned, this proposal has been before the Historic Commission. They did receive a certificate of appropriateness, although currently pending appeal. Along the lines of that approval, I did want to state for the record that that approval from the Historic Commission did define the utility poles being installed underground, and the proposal needs to proceed as such in accordance with that approval. Parking dimensions shall be at the discretion of the building commissioner. We recommend, we've noted a recommendation for contiguous sidewalk along one frontage of School Street, and it does, as the applicant has presented, there will be a pedestrian circulation on the western half of School Street. The applicant has provided a photometrics plan. Our only comment related to the photometrics plan, I believe all of the lights may be street lights, but if there's any lights that are additional lighting, we just want to make sure that the foot candles meet the requirements in the code. And then our final comment is with the recent addition of the temporary drop-off area, we would like the applicant to provide a turning radius, so that way we can ensure that any vehicle that's in that temporary drop-off area can successfully make a U-turn right back onto School Street. And that concludes Planning and Development's comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next is DPW Engineering.
Morning, Matt Roble, DPW Engineering. Similar to Kate, I have a number of comments that have been sort of developed over the course of the last couple meetings. Just to get them on the record, I'm going to go through them, but any that have been addressed, I'll make sure to make note of. The first one that we had was related to stormwater analysis calculations for each of the 1,500-gallon wastewater industrial holding tanks. Based off of the plan updates, we feel as though this comment has been satisfied. Dan, you had mentioned that since the plan was resubmitted back on, or updated plan from March 7th has had some additional updates. Electric elevators have been provided. So my understanding is that the cross street connection between the oil water separators will no longer be required, correct?
Yeah, that's accurate. I'll submit a revised set, picking up that detail and eliminating that.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we had concerns about that cross street connection, but if it's no longer required, then that has been satisfied as far as I'm concerned. Stormwater being generated on site must be discharged, is not permitted to discharge to the municipal sewer collection system, must be infiltrated on site. At this point, we feel as though this comment has been satisfied. One piece that I had noted wasn't reflected from our discussions, Dan, was the radiant heat driveways for the garage access. I know that that may have been developed since the stormwater analysis had originally been submitted, but we're going to be looking for the site plans to be updated just to reflect any utilities associated with the construction of those driveways. And then BMP sizing calculations, we had requested those to be submitted as part of the stormwater analysis. At the last meeting, I had noted that it appeared that there was a lack of one deep sump catch basin, which has been provided, a deep sump hooded catch basin. The drainage calculations and stormwater BMP calculations seem to be correct at this time, and that comment is no longer applicable. We are looking for some updates to the stormwater system operations and maintenance plan based off of changes to the plan. Originally, we were looking for inspection or maintenance for roof drain lines and cleanouts, manhole structures, leach pits, floor drains, industrial wastewater holding tanks. And in addition, based off of the plan changes, we'll need it for grasscrete pull-off areas, just maintenance of that surface, and checking the functionality of the radiant heat garage access driveways. Next comment that we had was looking for some additional information based off of the retaining wall construction and how that would be either contained on site or how impacts to other properties would be mitigated. Based off of our discussion at the last meeting, we're just looking to have that information included in detail as part of the construction operations and maintenance plan. I feel as though that can probably be done as a condition of the building permit, provided that Commissioner Florence is okay with making that be conditional. We had a comment regarding the obstruction of travel lanes within the public right-of-ways during mail package delivery, delivery service, and collection of building trash with the installation of those concrete or those grasscrete turnaround areas. We feel as though this comment has been satisfied. We had another comment related to looking for operations and maintenance plans for site systems, i.e. related to snow removal and any sewage collection system components associated with the elevators. It seems like most of this has either been addressed as being part of the access driveways with radiant heat, or the elevator switching over to electric rather than having any oil-based fluids in them. So this comment has been addressed as well. We are still looking for cleanouts to be provided at the junctions or changes in vertical or horizontal direction of any sewer or stormwater collection system piping, mainly to do with the roof drains, is where I noted most of those would need to be added. We're looking for some additional elevation and for any piping components or equipment associated with stormwater or sewage collection systems on the utility site plan. That has since been addressed by the applicant. We still do need to see some sleeving depicted or resolved as far as what the elevation requirements are for separation between sewer and water lines, mainly to do with the existing sewer and proposed water connection at the end of the project area, and also for the domestic and residential water service lines for 115 School Street. We're looking for we are looking for crosswalks at the intersection of School Street and South Street and the crossings of both sides of School Street that are compliant with the Town of Barnstable standard ladder style crosswalk detail. In offline discussions with the applicant, We had originally requested rectangular rapid flashing beacons at both of the crosswalks along School Street. Dan, I believe at our last meeting, we had discussed you and Stu purchasing at least one RRFB for South Street, and DPW would go about taking care of the installation of that.
Yeah, I think that's acceptable.
Okay. We were looking for an ADA compliant sidewalk to be provided as needed to either both sides of the street or one side of the street in conjunction with planning department's opinion on that. We note that that has been done on the 115 School Street side of the project. One thing that we noted though was we're looking for that to be extended down the entire frontage of School Street and terminating at the end of the property. And we're looking for vertical granite curbing to be provided in areas that are not at either the driveway access or the Grasscrete turnaround areas. The applicant is
Since we're
also
removing that pole on the south side, so I think we could easily just extend that one piece that's missing. Be happy to do that.
okay, perfect. And then the applicants advised that any curbing or sidewalks impacted in other areas of the project will need to be replaced with ADA compliant 5-foot wide bituminous concrete sidewalks with BA4 standard vertical granite curbing for any areas impacted by project construction activities. The applicants also advised that they'll need to file for a road opening permit and a sewer connection permit with the town of Barnstable DPW engineering department prior to the start of construction activities. Likewise, the applicant has advised that any tree plantings within the proposed public right-of-way will require coordination with approval of the town of Barnstable's tree warden. We're looking for some profile cross sections or stationing alignment for the profiles for the retaining wall and for the School Street utilities alignment, just to get those lined up with the profile views that are already included in the detail sheet. And then we're looking for a full detailed construction operations and maintenance plan, identifying previously required items, but also additionally requesting the retaining wall construction sequence be added to that. And then a couple of new items that we had noted, but nothing too major, was the emergency generator for both sites shows electrical connections between the building and the generators themselves, but fuel source isn't identified for those and isn't apparent based off of the utility connections. So if they're going to be propane fired or natural gas fired, we're either looking for tanks to be shown in the case of propane or diesel fired generators, or gas connections to be shown as well. Also discussed offline with the applicant, impacted areas of School Street during the construction sequence and installation of utilities will require at the end of utility construction and the pavement settling period a full width mill and overlay of those areas. We're also looking for the existing curb cut along School Street along South Street for the 115 School Street site to be closed and reconstructed with new vertical granite curbing, also meeting VA4 standard and ADA compliant 5-foot wide bituminous concrete sidewalk. And both of those comments, I'd just like to note, were addressed on the plans updates submitted by Dan Ojala's office. That's all we have for comment at this time.
Thank you. For the public's benefit, Matt, when and how will those items be addressed?
Brian, any outstanding items, if we could have them addressed as a conditional approval item for the building permit, I think that we can move through formal site plan review and work with him offline before those permits are filed.
Great, thank you. And I'm sorry, Kate, I meant to ask you the same question. When and how will your quick concerns be addressed?
I concur with Mass Process as well. I'm particularly looking for an updated landscape plan to incorporate the new drop-off area, and then the photometrics, just confirmation that if they're having an updated version, if there's any lighting beyond the street lighting. And both of those, I think, can be coordinated offline before building permit.
Great, thank you. Next up is public health, please.
Thank you, Brian. David Stanton with Health. So if approved, the residential units that are being rented would need to be registered with the Health Division. And that would be done at the time prior to the renting of the units. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Building Division.
Thank you, Brian. Just a couple quick permitting notes that we discussed through informal. Separate building permits will be required for each of the residential structures. So 110 and 115 will require their own separate building permits. Each of them will fall under construction control. Building permit is also going to be required for the retaining wall. It's going to be, I believe, at 115 School Street. And sign permits will also need to be permitted through the building division. And those are our comments.
I'll just add that this project may be subject to third-party review at the expense of the developer. All right. Next is Hyannis Fire, please.
Thank you, Brian. Tim Landman, Hyannis Fire Prevention. We had a couple comments on this as well. First of all, the end of School Street is also a townway to water. So the commercial fishing fleet uses it on occasion with their trucks in and out of there. And also Barnstable Police, as well as ourselves, keep our emergency response boats on the pier at the end there. The Hyannis Fire boats are in year round. There's 2 of them. There are times when we have emergency responses that we clog up the end of School Street with vehicles probably as far back as the Steamship Authority employee parking area. The Grasscrete proposal seems to address any concerns we might have had about being able to have vehicles not have to go to the bottom of School Street to turn around. Going on what Ms. Maldonado mentioned from planning, if we could get a turn radius on utilizing the Grasscrete for a vehicle at least comparable to our ambulances, if not a little bit bigger, for size, just to confirm that. Otherwise, most of our comments fall into what was already discussed earlier during informal regarding some of our permitting processes regarding fire protection systems for the property. And that fire protection is included in construction control documentation. And in particular, I just want to mention that with the changes in the fire code, the NFPA 241 requirements for safeguarding construction for alteration and demolition is going to be required at the beginning of permitting. We want to see the identification of who the fire prevention plan manager for the project is going to be. Other than that, that are the comments that we have today. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you, sir. Matt, looks like you're trying to comment.
Yeah, I had a comment come back to memory after Dave Stanton had remarked regarding addressing. We are going to need, as part of this, the address changes to be coordinated with us and Hyannis Fire as far as numbering of units and the building itself, just to make sure that's all coordinated with our GIS system.
Yeah, I think the main street numbers are resolved already, but certainly the units are very important. We'll work with you on that.
Yeah, the unit numbering, we can figure that out.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Captain Lamb, how and when do you anticipate the items that you have concerns with to be addressed?
I concur with both Matt and Kate that it can be addressed prior to building permit being issued.
All right, and you'll see to that on your end.
Yes, we will.
Very good, sir. Thank you. Next is asset management, please.
Thank you, Brian. No new comments. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that concludes the staff portion of our hearing today, our meeting today. If somebody would like to speak, I just ask that you put your, either raise the hand feature in the system, and I will get to you. Mr. Lawler, you are. We'll start with you first.
Okay, thank you, Brian. David Lawler, on behalf of Dockside Marina, the abutter at the end of School Street, also the owner, I think it's Zero School Street LLC. Mr. Kirker is the principal of both of those, and we've been involved in these projects, the various proposed projects by this applicant, and generally the scope of these projects and this one as well, a very large concern to my client. I understand that, except for maybe one issue, which I'll address later, that the project as proposed conforms with local zoning. However, the purpose of site plan is that even if a project does conform with zoning, that certain issues are the town is assured that this is a safe project for the community and properly built in accordance with other guidelines as the various committees. Dan, if you would be kind enough to pull up the photo of the property, the colored photograph that shows the new green drop-off spaces. I appreciate that.
Generally, Mr. Lawler, this is for public comment.
Okay, that's fine. I can do it off without it. It's just, I think it makes it easier. I have two major.
My statement, Mr. Lawler. I'm gonna ask Mr. Olshaw to go ahead and bring that drawing up, and you can make your comments. But I'm gonna ask you to be brief, okay?
Yep, I will. I got two major issues that I want to address, and I wanted to say that with respect to the drop-off area that was recently added, I just came across this, and I was actually supposed to be on trial today on another matter, so I have not done a deep dive into it. But I'm not certain that those actual that adding concrete to the buffer zone actually does comply with zoning. But I haven't done a deep enough dive into it to to provide anything other than that. But with respect to these drop-off areas, I respectfully disagree with engineering and the fire department that these provide adequate safety with respect to the street. As indicated, at the bottom of the street, the fire boats and the police boats. My client, operating a marina, is very concerned with the life safety issues of his clients with respect to the ability for rescue to get there in time. There are 50 some odd units here, and this is a different world, especially since COVID, where you see not only UPS and Postal and Federal Express that you saw before, but the Amazon trucks, DoorDash, and everything else. We suggest to you that it's just not sufficient to handle the drop-off as what this project will anticipate, certainly in the summer months, with 50 some odd units, people down for the holidays, not only getting things delivered during the day through Amazon and other delivery services, but also all the other delivery services that now typically come to people's homes. It's just not adequate. The backlog on this property, once those spots are taken, and how long is it, is the drop off? Is it 10 or 15 minutes? Is it 20 minutes? It says no parking. We suggest to you that it's going to be impossible to enforce, and it's going to create a giant problem. Now, if somehow the applicant could arrange for some type of a turnaround on its property itself, where they could actually access the property, would be a much better solution than having these large delivery trucks on School Street. And if one truck is in there or two trucks are in there, they're going to have to go to the bottom. Turnaround at the bottom is extraordinarily difficult, especially if someone's already down there at the water, and it's going to create a bottleneck and potential life safety issues that we're concerned about.
Mr. Lawler, just interrupt for 1 second. I'm just trying to keep an orderly meeting here. Are you done with the screen share?
I am done with the screen share.
Thank you. Mr. Olshaw, would you kindly, thank you so much. All right, very good.
And I'll move on from that. And the last one, Brian, is that this particular project, and maybe this is part of the building permit process. And if it is, forgive me. There's no plan with respect to construction. If you look at the seaside portion of the property, they're subject to conservation restriction and within the buffer. There's absolutely no place on these properties where a crane can go. You're probably looking at construction with, if they're both building both buildings at the same time, 30 or 40 workers at any given time. School Street is an avenue for ambulances that deliver from not only from Mashpee, but come right up that way. There's no parking on School Street. I'm sorry, South Street. South Street's the avenue, if I misspoke. There's no parking on School Street. There's absolutely no definitive plan on how to construct this. This is a major construction project requiring, massive cranes. If this was in Boston or anywhere else, there would have to be a fairly comprehensive plan of where everything is going to wind up. And just a statement, oh, we're going to get parking across the street or this or that. I'm sorry, that I don't think that that's sufficient if there's a building permit. There needs to be a comprehensive plan on how this is going to be constructed. Almost with parking for employees, cranes, delivery of concrete, all these other matters which are going to block up the safety avenue. Again, this is a road that services not only fire and rescue and the steamship, but also the police. And my client operates a marina, and those are very important to the safety of his clients. So I would ask that be addressed as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Lawler. We actually have asked for a construction management plan, so that's part of what we asked for here in site plan review.
And has it been received?
Yeah, we'll make sure you can have your client has a copy of that. Yeah, no problem. All right. Is that it, Mr. Lawler?
Yeah, those are the two issues. Again, I question whether or not that actually does comply with zoning, and I just think that the drop off is wholly inadequate, and the construction plan I think should be part of site plan review so that the public can comment on that. I don't think just we've had the plan and we're going to produce it to you later if it gets approved. I think that a construction plan affects that neighborhood in such a large degree. I don't know if that's not part of the public record and on television and presented as part of the project. That should be.
We'll be happy to share the plan with you.
No, but I'm saying the general public, maybe another meeting and have it, presented.
All right. Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I see that Michelle Martin has her hand up. Ms. Martin, I'm going to have you go ahead and speak. We've already heard testimony as to the turnaround, the parking, the emergency access down there, as well as the drop-off area being questioned by Attorney Lawler. Is there anything new you'd like to add?
First of all, thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm a homeowner at 64 South Street. So my home is directly across from the entrance to the Steamship Authority. And this is my first, I've only owned the home for a brief amount of time. So this is my first time being involved in any public meeting for the community. So to the extent that my comments are inappropriate for this venue, please tell me. My question relates to sort of increased traffic and related concerns. I have, since I've purchased my home, I have spoken with the local police department and the, and I apologize, I forget the correct name, but the streets department about the incidents of people coming off of School Street and going the wrong way on South Street as a quick shot to the Steamship Authority. Last summer, I had a motorcycle come through my fence because of speeding on South Street. So I think my request is, given what I know is going on with the consideration of making South Street both ways, obviously significant pedestrian traffic that is already coming off the Steamship Authority, presumably increased pedestrian and car traffic coming off of School Street, and related to this, what is being done to consider those issues? I did hear, I think, in the presentation about some walkways that may be installed, but I have very significant concerns about what all of this might mean for very significant issues that already exist on South Street. One of the reports I made to the police department and to the streets department was, in a single week of time, we recorded, and this is not a lie, 52 cars turning off of South Street, or I'm sorry, turning off to School Street and making a right-hand turn going the wrong way. So my concern is, and this is in no way to suggest I am not supportive of developing this area. I just want to make sure that what I perceive as a homeowner in the middle of this as being a very significant issue in terms of speeding, people going the wrong way on a one-way street, pedestrians at risk, that those issues are being considered as we look to put a significant, as we look to increase the population, both vehicular and pedestrian, in this area of School and South Street. So again, if this is not the right venue for this issue to be raised, please direct me to where and when I should raise it. And again, this is not to say I'm not supportive of the development in general, but just that I am very concerned as a homeowner who had a fence, who almost had an individual die in her front yard last summer and had a fence destroyed, which obviously was insignificant relative to the potential injury, that there is already a very serious existing traffic pedestrian issue on South Street in that vicinity. And I want to make sure that this development, which potentially could exacerbate it, is going to do something or work with with Barnstable to make sure that the issue is not made worse and hopefully is actually improved. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Ms. LeBlanc, you have your hand up there. We're happy to welcome your comments here. Just if you could, if they're new, fresh comments, we'd be happy to hear them. If they've already been addressed, then we ask you just to be very, very brief.
Yes, I am here representing the Lewis Bay Condo Association, and we would also request a copy of the plan for the construction. The lack of additional parking spaces and the likely impact to our lot has resulted in us looking at some measures to block off our access to School Street as well as to South Street and make that restricted to our tenants only. And that requires some zoning and other approvals as well as some construction. And so we would like to understand what's going to be happening on that part of the street so that we limit that and we have enough time to address those concerns.
Thank you. Maggie, when we do these for the public, do we have some way of posting our plans, make them available for people?
Everything is available on the OpenGov portal, and on the agenda, there's a link that shows relative to each specific application, how they can see what's there. They can see the actual application, and they can also see the digitized records that have been provided.
Thank you. So I just want to make that clear for the record here, for the public that'll be watching this, for Mr. Lawler, Ms. LeBlanc. Those documents are available for anybody that's going to attend these meetings. All they have to do is look at our agenda, follow the links on our agenda to the file, and you can review any of those documents at your leisure. All right.
Just address that, Brian. I don't believe that the construction plan was part of that. At least I didn't see it.
Mr. Osho, can you speak to that?
We've got on the last page of the plan set does have some language and a construction orientation. We absolutely will keep access available for those fire department and police vehicles at the end of School Street and traffic. We simply can't block off the street to those vital resources. So during construction, we'll actually create a separate way on the west parcel so they can bypass when we're doing the water line, when we're doing the sewer connections. You can physically bypass it with a full 22-foot wide hardened path So that is already on the plans. And I'd
Understood.
remind the board that, once these parking decks are secure and the decks are poured, that's gonna be great, 40 whatever spaces underneath for the workers. They can simply go right down the ramps and park underneath while they're doing drywall or working on the trim and so forth. So we'll make, that will be part of the plan, is to create a safe space for vehicles to park, in the parking garages while some of the other work is being done on the site. I would point out, just in general on this, with respect to the traffic and the patterns in the area, would certainly could look at whatever plans are to make South or Main two-way or one-way, but they've been this way for a while. Signage usually can handle it. If there's inadequate signage, people will miss it. So would be happy to work with the town to give spots to put additional signage. I'd remind the public that we've got a busy restaurant there now, so it's not like this is a virgin site and you're suddenly going to have a lot of traffic. This is a 200 whatever seat restaurant that's very busy during the summer. All that traffic is being replaced by just, residential traffic, which tends to be very varied. It never ceases to surprise me. I thought when those Village Greens big buildings went in Independence Park, which I drive by there frequently, that I'd be stopped at traffic all the time. Not once in 15 years have I ever even had to slow down for traffic going in and out of that place. It's just amazing to me how little traffic is actually generated by a residential facility. So, I think that signage and more care can certainly always be taken on South Street, but we are replacing a large average daily traffic with a comparable amount. And we'll certainly work with staff on the construction plans on how to handle traffic during and after construction. And again, construction is temporary. As soon as we're done, we'll have the nice, neat site the way it is, with a pretty adequate turning area. And I think it'll be a very safe solution. Thank you.
Mr. Klein, I'd say a couple of notes. The end of a plan does not constitute construction management.
I'm gonna have your microphone muted. I'm trying to run an orderly meeting here, so please just give me a moment. I will be happy to let you speak again. Mr. Olshaw, thank you. I wasn't trying to get a rebuttal. I was just trying to understand if what you put in there for construction plans. I personally haven't looked at them. I know that Matt Robel from our engineering department had asked for construction plans. Yes, Mr. Kirker, just give me a minute, please. I understand that he had asked for those, and you said there's some comments on the page. Is there an actual construction plan or a construction narrative?
So we will, it was my understanding that could be fine tuned and refined as part of the permitting process prior to the issuance of a building permit. So we don't have a formal document done yet, but there is some language both on the plan and I believe has been submitted in a narrative form, but we'll certainly tune that up and get all of Matt's final comments addressed prior to pulling the building permit.
Okay, just as a fair warning to you folks, this matter is gonna be taken under advisement at this point, because I thought that we had a construction management plan in here, which we asked for early out. So that's just a heads up for where this is going. But okay, let me get back to public comment. Now, Mr. Lawler, you had started first.
I apologize, Brian. And thank you. I apologize. I should have not interrupted you. I know I've done that before too. Well, thank you. I just think that like as I indicated, and it sounds like you may be in the same. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is such a critical site with ambulances coming up South Street, and then the water safety issues at the bottom of School Street, that a comprehensive construction management plan should be part of the site plan review process and should be made available to the public for comment and review prior to approval of site plan. And as such, he was indicating one has not been provided. A couple of notes at the end of a plan does not constitute a comprehensive construction management plan. And I would ask that this be continued so we can review that and then make appropriate comments if necessary. It might be a fine plan that doesn't need any comments, but I think that is the appropriate way to go.
Mr. Ojala, I'm not looking for a rebuttal at this point. This is public comment, so if you just hang on, I will make that a moment, some time available for you. Thank you, Mr. Lawler. We agree that construction management plans are a requirement and part of what we try to do here. All right, the next person I saw with their hand up was Mr. Kirker, please.
Hi, I'm Wayne Kirker, the abutter.
Mr. Kirker, I just asked that you keep your comments new comments. We've already heard about congestion and those types of things.
Okay. When the zoning was created for Main Street, it just didn't anticipate underground parking. And I have an underground building. I think they're a great idea. However, in this case, none of the visitors with the taller vehicles can get in that building, can get into that underground, and there's no place for them to go other than the cutoffs. I don't know if we're all allowed to just use our front line setbacks for parking and all like that. And I'll be thinking about that when I get back. I'm away right now. But the point is, as soon as there's a vehicle or so on either side of that street, the rest of them, they can't come. So the rest of the people can't have no place to put their taller vehicles. And now you see every carpenter and even maid services have these taller vehicles. And there are just so many that come every day. I mean, for my tenants at the marina, those guys, those tall vehicles are in all day long, one after the other, unloading product for their that have been ordered online. Not to mention, even we have a shuttle for taking people to Boston. We had to take the factory roof racks off our vehicles just to get in their parking garages. In my opinion, what we'll see is a couple people using those side areas as for the short-term parking, but short-term parking doesn't help out a painter or a house cleaner or any kind of tradesman or or even a landscaper with trailers sometimes. These guys have to park somewhere, and a landscaper isn't there for 15 minutes, and neither is a maid service, and neither is any type of tradesman that would come or a maintenance person, etc. So I feel that we're going to end up with a situation where, although this shows that it can work in theory, there's no way it'll work because these tall vehicles have become very commonplace. In fact, just look out on the street any day and you see everybody that used to have low. In my opinion, this project requires some more parking for taller vehicles. And I'm all for building the condos there. I even told the planning board if he wanted to go even 3 stories, 3.5 stories, maybe 4. I was in favor of that zoning. All I'm not in favor of is a project where somebody's trying to gobble up every inch of his usable space at the cost of the rest of the public. And there's not a chance in the world that in my opinion, that those two cutoffs are gonna satisfy the needs. So I understand the zoning and the underground and all of that. That made sense. But the underground, unless he's gonna have, a UPS truck is 12.5 feet. We measured one yesterday. All those vehicles are high, the high vans. So there's just too many of those high vans that are gonna come in. And once they have to go down to the bottom of that street, ask the fire department who just commented, ask anybody what it's like down there trying to do a U-turn on that street. A 3-point turn won't do it. I don't know if several 3-point turns can do it. So I think that has to be looked at. I would hope the town would.
Yep, we understand you.
Okay.
We do. We heard you folks loud and clear. Anything else besides the congestion and tall vehicles?
No, tall vehicles is my main issue. I'd like to see the project go forward with enough space to accommodate their visitors.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? All right, hearing none. I will take this. Maggie, did you have something?
I just had a comment from a letter of support that we received from attorney Rob Brennan on behalf of his client, Wind Development.
Great, thank you. Any final comments? Mr. Bornstein?
You're still muted, Stuart.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm sorry. I want to point out, there is no crane going to be used on that property. We plan to use a low, one for each side, so they don't have to cross the street. And these things are the size of a small van. So there absolutely is nothing going to be sitting on School Street for construction. Everything's going to be contained on the property, including the pouring the concrete, and all deliveries will be on the property. We don't anticipate. We have a specialist company that we're hiring to help us build this, and they build in very small spaces in Boston. So they're very cognizant of what we have to do. This will be neat and on-time deliveries. And I tell you, I have about 40 or 50 maids in the hotel. I don't see any big cars. They come in small, little insignificant cars. They can't afford to run a big car. And this project is not a made big units. They're small units, they're individual units, they're priced low. So I don't expect to see a lot of cleaning help go into these units. We'll have one full-time maintenance man who'll take care of the grounds and everything that has to be done. And I believe the garage can accommodate an SUV, whatever the standard height is, or a small pickup truck. We don't have those issues. And I know that Kirker Group is reaching for any kind of straw they can to protect their issues down below. The biggest problem with their issues, they got too much product down there. And it's only I'm not going to get into that. All right. But I just let you know that if a construction plan is what you need, we'll see if we can get you one in the next 36 hours. We pretty much know what we got to do.
Thank you, sir. And that segues right into what I was going to say, is that I'm going to take the matter under advisement. There was supposed to be a construction management plan. Mr. Ojala, I did promise that I would let you share that screen and show me what you were trying to tell me. Please be brief. I am going to ask for a management plan, but until then, we'll be happy to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, no problem. Just really briefly, just to say that we didn't address it at all is a little unfair. We're providing a 24-foot wide roadway through the west parcel, and the construction sequence carefully states how we're going to do it. But we'll get that in a little bit better draft form, a little bit better form for you. Happy to do that. But this is a pretty comprehensive plan on how to construct it. We'll add some additional materials and get that right over to you.
All right, well, hang on a second before you go. Mr. Roble, it was your request for a construction management plan. Was this what you were looking for, and did you consider it adequate, or was there additional information required?
No, there was additional information I was looking for, kind of building off of just the retaining wall requirement. I'd be happy to kind of speak to those items. There are a number of them, so I was trying to be brief in my presentation before. What we're looking for included in that is the anticipated removal and delivery of any materials to the site. That would include concrete, any fill or additional material that would be generated by the site and hauled off-site. We're looking for anticipated demolition and construction time periods and any planned breaks in the project schedule. We're looking for identification of trucking routes and access locations, both at the site and to the greater project area, seeing how trucking routes would impact some of the surrounding side streets. Temporary drainage basins during construction, which I believe are at least alluded to on Mr. Ojala's plan, including justification of their size, their location, and the number of any such structures. Erosion and control and sediment control types and locations, which I think is at least partially alluded to at this point in time. Hours of construction, dust control measures, security fencing and public screening, emergency access and lockbox locations during the construction period, also to be coordinated with emergency services. Coordination with emergency services regarding planned trucking routes and related traffic concerns, a written description of measures of how the applicant will mitigate stormwater control and site materials cleanup in the event of large stormwater events, where soil, sand, or other debris migrates into the town right of way. And we're also looking for that construction procedure for potential impacts to abutting properties related to retaining wall installation or other building construction aspects.
Thank you, sir. And that is the list that I recall from our informal meeting. So I'm going to ask that that be presented to engineering and a copy sent to Maggie Flynn for the record. I will take the matter under advisement until then. And if Mr. Roble has any issues with the construction management plan, we will be in touch before any approvals are granted on this. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds fine. It's very typical, and we'll get that right over. Thank you.
Very good. Mr. Kirker, last comment here. I'm trying to.
Yes, when this went before the planning board a series of times, it was suggested that there was a summertime shutdown for the construction like they do elsewhere. And I thought that site plan should know that, because it seemed to me that the applicant was going along with this at that time.
There is no formal process to shut construction down in Barnstable during summertime. There is an informal process that the DPW uses for their contracts. So that's all that's related to. There's no formal process to shut construction down during the summertime. If there was, there'd be nothing done in Barnstable.
Well, I actually agree with that. I just thought I would ask, since the planning board
Yeah,
brought it
absolutely.
up so many times.
So this is not approved at this point. This is a matter is taken under advisement. And we will let the applicant know, and anybody that would like to find out the status of this in the next, couple of days from the public here, you're welcome to contact Maggie Flynn. She can let you know whether or not those documents have been received and were uploaded to the portal. I'm going to leave it up to you folks to look to see if the construction management plans are uploaded to the portal. We're not going to, we're required to provide comment. We're not required to provide service. So if you want to see those, Mr. Lawler and anybody else, check with Maggie to see when they're uploaded, and they should be available to you. Happy to entertain any questions you have once you have reviewed them, though. Okay.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That concludes site plan review for today. The matter's been taken under advisement once again, and thank you for your time, everybody. Staff, I thank you very much for your time and attention, and we look forward to working with you here over the rest of the week. Have a great day. Thank you, IT.